Namaskar, good morning from North America, and good evening to all the community members in back home in India. Welcome to yet another episode of the Homeland podcast, season 1. आज छ मे सहित अख बड़ खास मेहमान खास शख्सियत Mr. Sanjeev Kak all the way from California, US. Namaskar, Mara.
Namaskar, Urzu Sarni. Thank
Let
you for
me
having me.
go through a brief introduction of Mr. Sanjeev ji. Sanjeev ji has done all his schooling from Kashmir. He went on to do his engineering from in computer science from Nagpur University way back in the year 1991. Post the Kashmiri Pandit genocide of 1990, like all of us, he also faced a very tough and struggling times and started as a teacher in Delhi. And then he later on moved on to England for with his professional pursuit and eventually landed up in United States, California. Currently, he's working as a software executive in the Silicon Valley, and it's my great privilege and honor to have him here in the show. And namaskar once again, sir.
Namaskar, Urzu Sarni, Zindagi. Thank you for having me. Really privileged to be here.
Pleasure, pleasure. So, without wasting any time, let us cut across to this interaction and the dialogue. And Sanjay ji, I want to start. I want to kick off this interaction, uh, probably with your early life in Kashmir when you were a young boy or a teenager. And I was talking to you other day, and you told me, all those small incidents and narrations that you faced, that discrimination, that communal apartheid that we faced, all of us faced. So I really want to, start from there, and I want to know कि क्या उस मतलब as a probably a young what is still imprinted in your memory as a youngster. So take us through that first.
Yeah. Um, Let me start with one instance, Mara. Asi Sarni Yad, Asi Zenio Prudential World Cup, way back. ठीक है. पत हमारा आए वेस्ट इंडीज तो इंडिया आए इन गिंदने वन डे मैचेस तो 5 day series इंडिया
Right.
गन्युक मैच तमिक हमारा लजयो शेर कश्मीर स्टेडियम युस शेख अब्दुल्ला ने नाव उसुक पोरमुतन ये लजयो तत
Right.
बत तो मियोन कजिन मारा अस गए वुचन ये मैच तम बने अस ज टिकट तो दोपक है चलो मैच आ वुचो बिकॉज यमो छु जूनमुत यम जेनन बे that was the expectation because अस was जूनमुतन मैच युथि मारा ब अंदर गोस अस बड़ मज सान बिहित अत मारा छु hujum mara hujum
Right.
with all placards, banners, and it's mara chun akh te nafar mara chun West Indies ya India ko support kara. Ye mara ch sari vanan east or west Pakistan is best.
Is the best. Right.
ठीक छ हमारा by half time युथि Indian inning makle Indian gyud gond युथि Indian inning makle Indian player mara draai ne never timo won us ch khocan स्टैंडन में तिमन लगाए कन तिमन लगाए बोतल हु ये पत मारा गो कम तम विज वोन मे कजिन ब्रदर मे बोड़ कजिन ब्रदर तम मारा वोन दोपन ये हालात खराब ना माहौल ठीक वल नेरावा मे वुचम सेकंड इनिंग मे वुच वेस्ट इंडीज गिंदान ना द्राय मे पत बूजमुत कि तत गए सम रॉइट्स वाइट्स गए तत गयो गड पथरा वथरा चलो वन गो सो अख इंस्टेंस दोयम मारा ये बह स्कूल गसान अस त्रे बट लड़क क्लासस मज कत्या बचे मत अस त्रे बट लड़क तम मज बट लड़क सह दोह ट्योक कर असल पे पूजायन वुजायन कर ट्योक कर तमिस मारा हमेशा आसान 10th तान दिस इज नॉट ए जोक कि यह ट्योक कर यह बट अगर कह हिंदी रटे है तमिस मजाक कर क्या उर्दू रटान subtle things to show that you have to convert to Islam eventually.
Right.
Yim mara batkore aase timman mara is harass karan, whether it is in bus, whether it is on road. Buchus palyomut badyomut habkadl, zamut habkadl palyomut badyomut pat Rawalpuri.
Right.
Yim mara yim batkore aas habkadl tana yim mara aas kal thot tula. Imis kala bon kun paknit pakan because they were harassed all the time.
Right.
Itimarage discrimination, itimarago genocide. These are the ways to create genocide. Mara, I will talk about the 10 stages of genocide. This is one of the key stages of genocide.
Correct. Bilkul, exactly. And Mishubasa, like, let us say ki the world is facing Hindu phobia. Hindu phobia, true, it's a global phenomena as on it. Like, be it in Canada, US, Australia, and even India, we face Hindu phobia is actually on the rise. The Buchus Yasan, I want to know from you, Sanjeev ji, ki you say Kashmir was in 1990, 1986, 1931. Yeah, like we have been saying, ki even if we go back to 13th century or 14th century, Raj Tarangini Duti, second Raj Tarangini Manchu, Acharya John Raj, son historian. So, yes, for the first time in the history of world, he has given a term called Jati Vidvans, which is genocide. Ichu Gomat Malap Patimo Sata Hata Variapat, this is still, and as on date, like when you and I are talking here on this show, this is still going on. The Malap, how do you, Malap, how would you actually usually Namtasmas I said culmination guy and you swing the pakanche. How do you see this in perspective of the 10 stages of genocide? So Malap, all of us would definitely want to learn from you.
Thank you, Mara. First of all, Bomarawan, Hindu phobia is an unfortunate happening, and it is all funded by the elements who do not want Hindu community to come together as one community.
As one, right?
This is yet another attempt to break this community by spreading false propaganda everywhere, Mara.
Exactly, absolutely.
Whether it is in India or outside India,
Yes.
we have to come together to defeat such NRFS plans.
Not
There is no other way.
exactly.
You go Hindu phobia. They go across world, and particularly in India and wherever Hindu community is today.
Right.
Amara Vanba, I will talk about Kashmiri Pandits, how basically targeted killing and everything else is basically displacement of genocide, and I will also talk about the 10 stages.
Right.
Ganyu Kumara Karb, I will provide one real facts. This is today. John Rajanos, Lukmutan, Raj Tarangni, 2 months.
Mhm.
Sutraito, that is good. Actually, somebody has referred to that, and it has been happening. Bumara Vanote today in within UN
Mhm.
and otherwise,
Mhm.
why it is a genocide.
Right.
Bamarakar only I will only refer to few articles of the document which was written in 1948, 9th December.
Okay.
This is the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crimes of Genocide.
Hmm.
Atmanach is the article, first 2 articles, he karbisiri page, nothing
Sure,
else.
sure. Definitely.
The Imarashwana, the contracting parties confirm that genocide, whether committed in time of peace or time of war, is a crime under international law.
Right.
And Imarashwana, in the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethical, racial, or religious group, such as killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group.
Group.
All these under UN resolutions are punishable. ठीक है हमारा?
Take one.
हमारा कसबा second part, that is recent issue, that is in 2014 and reprinted in 2018, there was a document published, Framework of Analysis for Atrocity Crimes.
Right.
And in atrocity crimes, Imara should refer Quran, genocide, crime against humanity, and war crimes.
Correct.
And according to the international law, genocide is a crime against members of national, ethical, racial, and religious group. Imara should me banomu document, Imara should kushro banomu document. ठीक है हमारा? This is saying that if there is a targeted killing,
right,
and any possibility and way of clearing somebody's belief, religion, and cleansing the land, it is called genocide.
genocide. Exactly. That's right.
Achha. Finally, there is a 10-stage framework given by Dr. Gregory Staton,
right,
who was a professor at Mary Washington University. He maps all the 10 stages, and Yilimarabut, when I will take you through that, each stage shows you how for last 800 years, 1389 Marashi Shuru Gomud Gonyuk genocide, and it cumulated into complete wiping out Kashmiri Pandit community from Valley.
Well, right, exactly. Even Gregory Stanton is, I think, he's the creator of Genocide Watch. Yem the stages to this. And I don't know how many of we know that tomorrow is 1st of May, and tomorrow is the day when poet Sarvanand Premi and his son Virender,
Were
they
killed.
were hanged to death. The
Yes.
and it's very worth mentioning here ki you see Sarvanand Premi Sahabos, he was a, as a person, he was very secular and liberal to the core of. So let imagine the intolerance that we as a community have faced, that even the most liberals and seculars and those who have actually served the Kashmiri Muslim community in Valley, they were not spared. So I keep Mara, you see all these massacres, Sangram Pora, Vandahama, Nadi Marg, or even recently on this the Homeland podcast as we have discussed Karan, Mr. Bhushan ji came in the second episode and he narrated and went through the ordeal of Chandrahama massacre. So I guess what you was killings, mass killings, massacres, they constitute, they actually constitute a genocide. And let us say stages of genocide, symbolization, classification, and to the extermination. How do they relate to our genocide? मतलब अगर तो ये ऐसे क्यों briefly one by one with examples थोड़ा बहुत समझे भी तो
ठीक मारा, absolutely. I think persecution is the eighth stage of
right.
this. That is what happened in 89, because Yimanos Pata, after persecution,
Hmm.
Athacha extermination, that is completely cleaning up, and Pachu denial. Suchu
Correct.
Bumara Karo. So that those stage Maracha At Vanyathichu symbolization.
Civilization. Right. The
Sorry.
class.
One stage Maracha classification. Thank you.
Classification.
Teacher. Classification Maracha Vanan in Hindus in Kashmir Valley or
Right.
Pandits in Kashmir Valley for several centuries. As I said, 1389 is Shuru, were stereotyped
Hmm.
and perceived to be different by Muslims.
Right.
Who have, and these Muslims or Islamic aggressors, they came and sought refuge, and we gave them refuge at that time. But they
Exactly.
then grabbed the power and started persecuting Aboriginal Hindus or
Correct.
converting them. This started in that, so that is classification ki ya socho alag class.
Imoka is basically classify. Right. As
Absolutely.
a separate. Right.
Absolutely. That started from 1389, because the moment they are in minority, they are intolerant. The day they become in majority, they become ruthless.
Exactly.
Doyum Marago Pata symbolization, Doyum stage. For centuries, Islamic rulers, Kashmiri Hindus were required to have clothes to be stitched in specific way. Asmara is wanan ki toy shu tok lagun taki toy gachu identify gachin yasa chu but easy identification. That
So
is
it's easy to
symbolization.
target. Right.
Absolutely. And our religious and our belief system, cultural identity, everything was kind of identified. Here, yachu but I'm such a zoruri tok lagun. I'm such a extra text dun.
Jizya.
Exactly. I'm Patmarago discrimination. 20th century Mazmarachu, we have been discriminated in education, in jobs, which you want Zorat Kim Bozen World, they all know.
They all know.
Years, Ashkusa discrimination is the same, whether it was as a Padai months, whether as a no Korean months, whether as a social status months, whether as business Chukorun K, every walk of life. Bomara Vanote Michu cousin brother, Temus was business ak. That
Right.
was now Bharat, Sitos that Shuru Gacha.
अच्छा
Temara Sunukso Zerti.
Timan क्या was now to this cousins?
Temara Bharat Bhushan now.
Okay.
He was also in camp after the last exodus,
Right.
and his shop was burned because his name started with Bharat.
Bharat. And
So
ये कहते हुआ क्या शमरा?
ये हमारा जो हपकदल अपोर तरीत was आपका building अगर तो towards Tunkpur गच्छियो on the left hand side,
You
just near
remember
the post office.
you remember which year it was? हम साथ ही it was gutted.
86, 85, 86. This is all well planned. I'll go through that.
So it is just because they saw a name like Bharat in the prefix of the and they just gutted it out.
Yes, there cannot be a Bharat anywhere.
Correct.
That is how discrimination continued happening.
Exactly. And that is very well said. Bilkul correct.
Patamara Shuan next is dehumanization. You should know,
Right.
Gagri Vanan, I can tell you.
Right.
Dehumanization Maraga Eskarik Titkan dehumanize, they started calling us names like Dalibata, Hangul. Hangul means who is just near to extinct.
Almost
Daligadwa.
correct.
Exactly. Or here Chachukan, you are a coward. Chachukan ladai karit. So every kind of dehumanization happened. Patashim Pananim, Batni Dodiye Mas kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Right.
ठीक है हमारा. And then all those things were to kind of make us either to convert because they were dehumanizing us.
Dehumanize.
Yeah, this also became one of the biggest protests in 1968. You saw Parmeshwari,
Parmeshwari agitation.
because they wanted to convert, they wanted to take our woman and
Exactly.
marry them. So conversion is easy that way.
या तो इस इंडिया से उनके लव जिहाद बनाए.
Love jihad Shivana, exactly. You Marachu, we have to wake up.
Correct.
You shouldn't know phenomena kya use India chucha.
Right.
Kashmiri Pandits have faced it for 800 years.
So तो
Yes.
क्या शुभ आसान कि you see in the background of this how important it is for probably government of India or या तो इस state of India to understand कि use Kashmir mas गसा मतलब what has been transpired in Kashmir from let us say last 700 years. या अगर इसका गसा let us not go that far back into the history. अगर इस 70 since the या तो इस Pakistani invasion go Kabyle raided forms अगर इस since then if we have a peek back into the history you relentlessly पचमो 70 वरियों पर you say genocide छ गसान तो क्या छु बासान कि ये पूरा important छ for the government of India for the current political dispensation at the center to actually officially recognize it कैसे uh, agar let me if we call it right it has never been officially recognized the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits ichunu bunyastan gomut officially recognized ke and I had sent you a copy of Panun Kashmir genocide bill of 2020. I show you from the we have actually reached out to all the member parliaments, prime minister office, home minister office, chief minister office, LG's office, and क्या इसकी state of India it's a signatory to the United Nations Convention. So it becomes a legal obligation on the state of India to bring in a very strong genocide law in the country. क्या है या तो हमारा unless we do not get officially recognized as genocide victims or survivors, this is going to be a very long battle. So okay, what do you think of that? तो क्या शुभ how important it is?
First of all, Mara, thank you so much for keeping the flame burning. What you are trying there, absolutely, absolutely. This is kind of very important, and you are doing a wonderful job, Panun Kashmir. Let me go with because they were also signatories to that 1948,
Right.
1950 using Bano
Condition,
genocide bill
condition.
curfew. Yes, yes, and there were around 100 other countries who were there, if I'm not
Also,
wrong, but I may
right,
be wrong. First of all, Mara, issue, this is where the sad part is.
correct.
The denial is happening, which is the last stage, is because India is mostly a Hindu country, chana?
Hindu majority country.
Hindu majority. However, if you read the definition of genocide, does not mean, or it does not say which state it happened. It
Okay.
is mostly based on if it has been carried against an ethical, racial, or religious group.
Right.
So even though we are in India, Kashmiri Pandits had their own and have their own unique way of life, identity, belief
Ethnicity.
system,
Ethnicity. Exactly.
and which is not exactly same as rest of the India. So that
Absolutely.
means you are cleansing, you have created a genocide against a system or a community that probably has its own belief system, its own religious way of celebrating its events and its festivals.
Right.
So I think this has been tried to destroy for 800 years because we were the seat of knowledge and education.
Bilkul.
So
Absolutely.
that seat, if they can take that seat, it can Muhammad Savna Sosna ke so I say Istanbul.
Mhm.
Tithaikum was Shiman Urshathwari Pet. They had this dream to enter Kashmir and convert Kashmir and make sure that the seat of Hinduism is completely wiped out.
from Kashmir.
So, on top of that, we have our own identity. If we have our own identity, how can you say a genocide did not happen? And it has been happening for last 7 exoduses.
Correct, correct, absolutely. And matlab, when if you look at official government statements agar to issue, मेरे पास not only just Kashmiri Pandits, but calling the genocide of 1990 as migration. That is the biggest, I mean, that is actually, in English we call a term like, rubbing salt to the wounds of somebody. When called it migration, as migration is something which is very willful. So it was always forceful. It was always a coercion. So nobody, ya toichu, ya buchus, we did not came out of our own free will. So I think fighting not only just, these false narratives, false propagandas. Yeah, in my last show, I highlighted this point ki 1986 must use Anantnag must go. That was not a riot, because in riot what happens ki usually two parties participate.
Two parties fought.
We have always been on the receiving end. And me kun sir basan toy ke shu basan puta zaruri chhe, probably for the younger generation, yeah, used to win next generation chipaga, to understand that you as see the go, it has always been one sided. We have always been the victims, and they have always been the perpetrators. So calling it as migration is unfair, unjust. Calling something as riots is again one. How important is it for us to use the right terminology, right nomenclature?
Very good.
Focus gets you in the
Very good point. I think this is what the unfortunate part of it was कि you bani atmanu kishu migration. Migration maracha asan by the key of it is when people are moving from one place to another place for a better opportunity or better way of life. ठीक
economic
है हमारे
well. Correct.
ठीक है. But हमारा मोटा example May 9 and which is Exodus Gao.
Right.
May 9 she couldn't survive one more year and she was very healthy in the heat in Jammu. She passed away in 1 year, and it was a heat stroke.
It was a hit. And
So killing
can I just write down her name? If you don't mind.
Sobhadra.
Subhadra.
Yeah,
And last name?
Dar.
Dar. And which year she passed away?
1992, 1992 early
1992.
part. Yeah,
And genocide camp. ये सब मुठी मिश्री वाला को.
yeah. No, yours was she was with her brother. She was with her son. Sorry, which are my
Son.
mama
Okay. Right.
and my mother. Yeah, my mother.
So this is like one live case. Just like win one, I say. Of
Absolutely, Mara. Absolutely, Mara. She couldn't survive because heat stroke and those kind of things. Now,
trauma, mental
Mara,
trauma.
yes, mental. You just mentioned camps. Campan mas kya ago? Agar ye migration aise hai, we would have seen better way of life. We
Exactly.
till date are not seeing that. How
Absolutely.
can you call it a migration? So this is a made up word to just humanize this thing. This is a dehumanization. This is a ethnic cleansing even after we had to exode. So we
Correct.
should stop using migration. Migration हमारा अच्छा नहीं करता. Migration is not ऐसा अफ्रीका पे तो पत गई Europe.
Right. Correct.
This
And
was we were forced to leave
most
by targeting us and by killing us.
killing us. And even Yamsata is used to Karan the word like Kabail raid. It is something, a very vague, ambiguous kind of a term. Guys, basically what it was a Pakistani invasion.
It was.
And it was, probably matlab, I may be wrong, but what I understand from a very naive understanding, it was termed as Kabul raid. So let us say ki I am telling this to somebody here in the West, so what will he understand? Who were Kabul? What? But when I say this as Pakistani invasion, so idea, it becomes very clear. Okay, so it was a Pakistani who in the disguise of Kabiles, intruded into valley and did all these kind of massacres and all these things. मैं तुम्हारा भाई also very one important thing I want to know from you, because genocide has different dimensions. Physical we have been talking, as go odd gante atpat kat karan. But when we touch upon on the cultural side of the genocide, cultural
Sure.
genocide is mostly because culture encompasses a lot of things: language, cuisines, food, dressing, all those, our habits, our lifestyle. Atman chu ak sari khud important thing is our language. Kashir pat kat karan. Because I think from last 5 to 10 years there has been a lot of focus, tremendous emphasis ki we have to we have to this Kashmiri language of our has to survive, because every passing day when you and I am talking, every passing day we are nearing the extinction as a community. Ya to hangul, you know to kya basan, don't you think that to reverse the cultural genocide, first foremost thing is to speak in Kashmiri, and to make our younger ones speak also.
Yes, for sure. I think that is very important to do that. However, a language only survives with the land.
Right,
Okay, that means when community is together, when you are in one family, there is no other language being spoken from your birth,
right,
your home language. It's not only written language. Written language cannot become a spoken language easily. It
exactly,
has to be a spoken language within your home, within your community, within your surroundings, within your interaction, within your business. You go anywhere in the world, that is one thing you will always see. A language becomes prominent and dominant because it is spoken around everywhere in that particular piece of land.
right,
Now, the problem is because we don't have a land and we are dispersed because of the fact what happened to us for last 800 years. If you go back, anybody who moved in the sixth exodus, they
right,
won't speak Kashmiri now.
right,
You won't see them speaking Kashmiri. Why? Because where they moved or where the exodus happened,
right,
that land was not speaking Kashmiri. So first thing we should find out is how do we go back,
right,
in what format, but at the same time to keep this language alive. And let me also do one more, add one more point here. Our language, that is Kashmiri Pandit language, is
right,
not Kashmiri Muslim language.
okay,
There's a huge difference between the two.
right,
The words we use, the words they use. So this is cleansing of one of the languages also, word languages also, by the way, and that is also part of genocide. A
Exactly.
language being destroyed is part of
I,
genocide.
I was actually coming to that, deliberately an attempt to look different, and that probably using a different words or dialects, or that kind of a thing. It also falls, I think, among the 10 stages of the
It does, it does, it does. So that is why I said I do think every parent has this responsibility to keep it alive, the language. However, if we really want it to survive, like it survived thousands of years from the Saptarishi days,
correct.
we have to make sure that our ask of a land where every Indian, every Kashmiri Pandit can go and call its own land.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. मतलब युस कٲشُر زبان چھُ کٲشُر language چھُ اَتھ چھُ وَنان کہِ it has a Rigvedic origin. Kashmiri language has a Rigvedic origin, and it's something we should be very proud of, that matlab, if we are still speaking this somehow. So this has survived so many centuries, this language is, and it becomes then very critical, probably very imperative, and this is probably a collective responsibility of all of us here in diaspora, or probably back home in India, to preserve the language. And you raised a very important point, Mara. Land, having the land beneath your foot is very important for preservation of that language. So let me ask you my next question. Toy catch you basan in the current scenario circumstances, use Kashir still, you know, you must have definitely seen how we had a 300-day long employee agitation going on in Jammu, and how targeted killings, targeted genocidal killings rather, became the order of the day. So toy catch you basan in current use ecosystem ch valley mas, that means cha is it is it possible to return? And if it is not possible to return, what is your opinion on that? And how important do you think, again, the demand of Panun Kashmir comes into the picture?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mara. No, no, very important what you are demanding. First of all, we have been completely depopulated from Valley. Sorry, I was trying to get the word.
Right.
Uh, will we return? Yes, we will return to Valley. That is the whole reason why we have been fighting for last, or what we have been fighting for last 30 years. It is not a fight. It is what I call, it's our right that
Right.
has been taken
Right.
away. We
Exactly.
need to get our rights back.
Absolutely.
But that will not happen in the current framework. You have to go back to Valley, we'll give you the jobs and everything else. It won't work that way. It has
Correct.
never worked in last 800 years that way.
Correct.
And the world has significantly changed in the last 3 decades, Mara. We need a unique, modern, innovative, sustainable, inclusive of all Indians, including Kashmiri Pandits, a long lasting solution for us, which actually what your Margdarshan is.
Right.
Similar to that, we also have here Avanti city, that is the smart city kind of a metropolis and all those things. Something of that sort
Thought.
coming together where we can go in and we can say, all Indians are welcomed.
Correct.
Indians, I repeat it, it is Indians are welcomed. And Kashmiri Pandits are Indians. This is what the sad part is. What was our fault? Only one fault. We didn't want to convert. We could have
Right.
easily converted and everything was fine after that.
Oh, yeah.
Doim, we supported India. So Indian government has to take that into consideration, because otherwise everywhere अगर ना ऐसे वापस दितुक land used to margdarshan chu या Avanti city chi smart city, there are a lot of other organization in some shape or form. I'm not saying one or other. In some
Right.
shape or form we need our land. If we don't, then in every part of India there will be a Kashmir soon.
Right. So Toishu, what the point you are trying to point out, the emphasis is, let us call it Avanti city, call it Panun Kashmir, call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, the basic idea is to have a separate homeland,
They
wherein
have a separate homeland.
I have a separate homeland in the valley, because coexistence with the majority population has been rejected by the majority population in the valley. And we, the minorities of Kashmir have always been on the receiving end of it. So I Keshu Basan, when state of India or government of India, you know, call the situation in Kashmir, use Namtas must go, what is still happening on ground there, when they call it as, the local law and order situation, when they do not recognize it as jihad, when they just call that they were merry incidents of cross border infiltration, such events, and some not understanding that what is on ground happening in Kashmir is jihad. Yamsat, we, probably I'm much more younger to you. You must have seen those mobs coming out on the street, ये मनाना इसके हम क्या चाहते हैं, आजादी का मतलब क्या, ला इला इल्लल्लाह.
Ayallah.
Sloganeering. Sloganeering is always, the reflective of the mindset of the people. So
Mhm.
when you come out on the street and you want to make it an Islamic independent country, and by the way, we know in Islamic countries, how, like look at Hindus living in Bangladesh today, look at Hindus living in Pakistan today. So in those situations, how important, how critical it becomes for the government to understand. And by the way, Panun Kashmir and other Kashmiri Pandit organizations for that matter from day one have been telling government of India that what is on ground in Kashmir is jihad, and it is jihad that has actually culminated into genocide. Athwanon ki law and order situation, Athwanon ki yamleta sa gai kamai militant has ya terrorist wardat. So I guess Shubhasan, isn't this injustice again? And not only just for us like Kashmiri Pandits, we have to call it genocide, not migration. It is also very important for the government of India to call it jihad. Now look at that situation, Kashmir Hills situation. It is getting spilled over to other states in the country. So how do you look at this situation?
Absolutely, man. First of all, I think it is already spilled into other states. So
States.
that is the unfortunate thing, and we are seeing those in many places in India. Why Marachi at one law and order situation is like Shuturmurg, putting
Yes,
your head in the sand, saying, if I don't see it, it's not happening.
it doesn't exist.
Shiksha, it doesn't exist. Now, if you want to be like that, and the thing is, you want to mimic Congress, what Congress did,
Right.
then what is the use of having BJP like government which wants to do things differently?
Absolutely.
ठीक है? अगर ऐसे आँख वो सहार, that is that we want BJP to do the things right.
Truth is there.
ठीक है? Now, otherwise, Sattanwarian was Congress was running for 70 years. They turned their blind eye towards
Correct.
Kashmiri Pundits. Though this can continue to happen because we are so small in number that you can just turn your kind of a blind eye and nothing will happen because we're not a voter bank.
We're not voting.
ठीक है? So the question is, but it is not only now about Kashmiri Pandits, and it is not only about India. It is worldwide phenomena.
It's a vote. Absolute.
And if we don't take hard steps, if we don't take this realistic steps to have a land which again we call our own land, then two things happen. One is we'll be forgotten that this was there. That is their aim.
That's the aim. Absolute.
Yeah, Afghanistan is Maskoruk, who knows, who says now that was a Buddhist country.
Right.
Bimyan Tim Buddha statue were destroyed. That was to just destroy that identity that it was there ever, Buddhism.
Yeah, it's this Mahabharata Paran that Gandhari was from Kandhar.
Gandhar, yeah.
Yes, Kandhar, right.
So that is their purpose.
Right.
ठीक है? Doyum Marachu, if that doesn't happen, then it will spread everywhere.
Right. Absolutely. That is the aim and design.
That is the aim and design, and that is why if you really have to fight it, you have to get that land back, which we can call our own because we have our own identity. We have been Israel went back
Correct.
and got its land back. We also need that.
So Taishu Basa, let me actually reframe this question this way, that Taishu Basa ki yam sat is Prime Minister Modi ji since kach karan, for rest of the country, let it be for the external affairs, for the security, for the development and all those GDP, foreign direct investment. Obviously, Mewasan, with rest of the country, with rest of the people of the country, we do agree that he has been definitely a great asset for this nation. Magar Yamsad is specifically, we talk on the Kashmiri Pandit, the policy of Kashmiri Pandit, is there any difference from what it used to be when it was the Congress in the center? Toishu Basan ki, because if you look at the employee agitation, if you look at the attitude of the the lieutenant governor, how he behaved with the Kashmiri Pandit employees. So Taishu Basanki, is there any shift of the policy, or is it the same policy, probably with a different name that the BJP has? When we talk specifically of the Kashmiri Pandit, so Taishu Basan, has Modi government been a failure on Kashmiri Pandits?
Bumara Dimota example, yel 370 karyok, the removal of 370, it was something which actually was it was a big step to do that. Use Congress and hokne karit, kunshi hokne karit.
Right.
But tam patay koruk immediately koruk domicile.
Right.
Why? Why was that done? I'm not saying that it is a total failure. There have been some steps done and they were done right. But at the same time, it is very important to understand that this is a golden opportunity.
Correct.
To turn that tide, which will for ages, our progenies who are going to be there. Otherwise, they will say shame on you.
Absolutely.
You had an opportunity, you didn't take advantage of it. And again, I'm not talking about Kashmir here only. I'm talking all over India. So yes, there have to be some more stronger decisions, some more concrete decisions that need to be made, which we expected in last 8 years.
So Taishu Basan, do you think that government of India should very clearly in its mind understand that a handful of Kashmiri Pandit, minuscule Kashmiri Pandit, it's impossible for them to go back pre 1990s and tithai pad rozun itpad namtas bod. So it is very important for government of India to understand that the creation of a union territory, a separate homeland, a Panun Kashmir and Avantis, it's critical. It's not only just and sometimes I wonder, not important for you and me or for our community, but also for for India to return in Kashmir.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. Having that, i- again, Bhamara Shushna, I'm not only saying about Kashmiri Pandits. Absolutely, that is the main purpose, because I am a Kashmiri Pandit. That is what we have been fighting for, our rights, our land back, and everything else, which we need to have call our own for another centuries to come. But
Right.
Bushus Wanan, India as khatrit is got zaruri. This is
Exactly.
very important for India.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they are there are these ebbs and lows,
Right.
that there is no terrorism happening or there is killing happening and all those things. This
Right.
is all facade. This is all
Right.
facade.
So this is a face wash. It's an eye wash, right?
It's an eye wash. It's a cotton in your eye, and that's it.
Right.
You will never be able to see the reality. And reality, we all know, who
Exactly.
were discriminated, who were killed, who were targeted, right from our emblems of the society, Neil, and Neil Kant, Gunju,
Yes,
or
all
yeah,
of
Justice
you.
Bhatt, yes, yes, or my friend, my cousin's friend, and I know him very well, is Tikku, Satish Tikku,
Okay.
because he lived in Habakadal Karfali Mala, where I was born.
I think one of the first targets of
Uh,
Vitakarat.
Yes, yes, yes. And he actually, I remember my cousin sister Khandarta, he danced his heart out in that
Oh.
in 86.
So,
So,
Sanjeev ji, let me take you back to diaspora. You are a part of the diaspora yourself. I am a part of diaspora. So, how important now? I'll let us discuss for some time the role of diaspora. You say, so we are in a struggle. So, how important because here the role of diaspora becomes, because you know when we look at different diasporas in the world, let us say the Kashmiri Muslim diaspora, let us say the other diasporas, they're very active, very vibrant. Although I'm not generalizing this, but whenever I go back to India and I talk to people from my community, they say that although Kashmiri Pandit diaspora has done a good job, there is no denying they have done a good job, be it scholarships, be it medical assistance, be it all kind of things. But when you look at how active and how vibrant and how I mean, Taikesh Basan, what are the what should be the the Kashmiri Pandit diaspora, how it should help the community in this fight for reversal of this genocide and the ultimate aim of the Panun Kashmir.
uh, first of all, Mara, I want to thank your organization for keeping this torch burning. It is not easy. It's never easy, because, and I don't think this fight is only for 30 years or 40 years. I
Yeah,
don't know how long it will take. Hopefully, it will be done. We will get what is ours soon. But thank you for doing that. Um, Ashmarachi Etike organizations which I am kind of associated with, like Kashmir Hindu Foundation, or Avanti Foundation, and there are others who have the same goal of
right,
working here in US.
correct,
However, what I think we should do is, absolutely, we should help whatever way we can to our brethren everywhere, particularly in India. But we want to also ensure that we raise the awareness here, the
right.
plight of the community that is going on, has gone through for ages. Example, Mara Dimo, it took a non-Kashmiri to bring out a movie which talks about the plight of Kashmiri. Why?
Hmm.
Why couldn't we do that?
Why can't we do it? Absolutely.
If because he had a desire, because he had a passion, because he thought it is important to do. So if every Kashmiri has that desire, if every, and we cannot sit at home and saying somebody else will do it.
Right.
We have to associate ourselves with Kashmir Hindu Foundation, Avanti Foundation outside India, and associate as as an inner desire and a passion that I want to help, because our community will otherwise go to extinct.
I think that is the most important point that you have said in the on the show, that we have to reach out to each other, right?
Very important, very important. And don't worry about cost organization, shikyachi, where it is and how it is and who is running it. Just get associated first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is why this Homeland podcast is here, because this was in the first place a community outreach program, a program, a podcast to reach out to all the important people like you, like others who have been on the show, who represent a different setup. So let me ask one more question. And I think the age we live in is the age of narratives, if I can call it, the age of narratives. You will see, the this has become, an absolute era where their war of narratives is, we are fighting a war of narratives. Atmas jo is yem sata is genocide is katch karan, we have been facing a denial of the genocide as well. And me to ask to from the perpetrator, you saw perpetrator Kashmir Musalman, who was aided and abetted by Pakistan, or all the inspiration that came from across the border to him, and eventually we were cleansed out from the Kashmir. So I get you, Basa Atmas. You must have definitely heard a false narrative, the biggest, and I call it as concoction of the century, the Jagmohan theory. Atpat kya what toy kya vichar chu atpat?
There is no Jagmohan theory. There is nothing. It's a plain and simple Mara. And because I faced it, because my family faced it, so did a lot of families face it.
Right.
The only and only truth Marachu. And again, let me first say, aajkal jo na generative AI, go and type in, was Kashmiri exodus of 89-90, was it a genocide?
Right.
You will see four different answers coming from the same
Okay. Perfect.
on OpenAI, because we are from Valley, so
Right.
OpenAI is
You know it better than anybody else.
no, no, because it is a fad right now. It is kind of going on. Go and check it. That is
Right.
that those are called narratives. This is the problem with there was no such thing that it was preconceived or pre-planned by Jagmohan. Nothing like that.
Right.
It happened. मैं मारा जो तुम तो example. How can it be in when Prudential World Cup I was watching?
Right. And you
That
were in
was
the
not created.
right?
I was in the middle of that and I was watching it. But Maharaj Mote Byak example. When Rubia Said was let go, Bugayos Bagar में वन्यो माजिद तलायतन क्या था उस अनून में दुकान पे थे.
Mhm.
There was jubilation. It was as if the state has become an Islamic state.
It was always proclamation. Abdul.
Yes. Ashe was neighbor ak Musalman. Tëms was लड़कस, tëms was मेन मर्ज परनावा. Up to 10th grade he studied, and then he was na padus timan melang government job, because they were it was free it was very easy for them to get it. Tim mara ch bonkan kath karan ki yeliyum maran ya yeliyum gatsan galan ye makan kamis gach.
Oh my God.
So there is no such thing as Jagmohan story.
Mhm.
Let's kind of, this narrative has to change. There is only one and one thing. It was a genocide, and we were asked to relive Galivia Tseliv.
Right. Correct. And
And
look at the audacity. They tell you on your face कि आपको तो जगमोहन ने निकाला, आप तो खुद भाग कर आए वहां से. This is what I call as war of narratives. When
yes, exactly.
your own killer is telling you, no, you died of yourself. It's you committed the suicide. It's not me who killed you. So this is atrocious. Like I call it. Acha, Sanjeev ji, finally, please tell me the most important thing. And I think everybody would be very eager to listen to this. You told me that from past couple of years you have been working slowly and gradually on an initiative of Kashmiri Pandit genocide memorial. So tell me something about Ashwini, thoda sa links and when this will go live. What was the team? What was the concept behind it? What was the source of inspiration? Who all came together and for doing this most important work that you guys have been doing?
Anmara, so the website is kpgenocidememorial.org.
So it is kpgenocidememorial.org.
Memorial.org, yes. Bamara Vanobu Ikati how did I come up with this? Bamara
Right.
also Poland, Krakow, I visit that because there is a development center. And I don't know how many of people here know Krakow, near Krakow, there is Auschwitz camp.
Sorry, there is what?
Auschwitz.
Auschwitz.
Auschwitz
Yeah,
Mara
Auschwitz.
Jews and Kurukhan, where they were prosecuted during World War II. I have visited, I had paid my homage to that camp for at least 3, 4 times because Iltibaga Sanchos, I go there.
Right.
I think it was 2 years, 3 years back, I believe so. The thing they have done there is they have retained every artifact
Mhm.
which gives you a chilling effect of what happened. They don't want you to forget it.
Right.
ठीक छ हमारा? And that is because that time internet was not there, social media was not there, all these things were not there.
Absolutely.
Now the best way to create a memorial is an online presence.
It's an online presence. Right.
ठीक है? Where the whole world can see what happened. So it can touch you podcast Karan. I would appreciate if you can upload it whenever it is ready, your podcast to that, so whole world can see it. Why
Definitely.
not?
And you have any timeline in mind when it's going to live, when it will be
Uh,
ready?
it is getting ready. My hope is then in next 2 month or two, I will get the first version out.
Right. And let me say this thing here, like on air, that we have also been working on humans of genocide. That has been an initiative, and there have been several initiatives from last 30 years from Panun Kashmir that we have collected different killings, different massacres, photographs, testimonials. We would definitely like to associate with this so that it becomes it becomes something of very important value and
Absolutely, yet another way to change, as you said earlier, than that narrative that
correct.
you did not. My only request to everybody who is listening today or who will listen to this podcast is contribute to it. You all have stories. We all have stories, horrible stories, horrific stories, what happened to our parents, grandparents, us, everybody,
Correct.
or even our kids. Contribute to that. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes to write your story. Give photographs if you have. Give the artifacts if you have. It is very important to collect that, Mara. It can touch you podcast. It is very important. These are very important documents so that
Absolutely.
this narrative doesn't change. Because agar you corner se, within 50 years, 100 years, people will forget.
Absolutely.
Kya
Absolutely. 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 And I think this whole initiative of this Homeland podcast, it was one, we have interaction, we hear all these ordeals, that macabre stories, what happened to each and every one of us. Like I cannot imagine, all those guests that have been here on this show, everybody had a tale to narrate, as a story to tell. कित पड़ गो क्या गो कमिस कम साथ कित पड़. So this this series in itself becomes a chain of interaction. It itself
exactly.
becomes a testimony, so that
Exactly.
tomorrow when once they say no, oh, there was no genocide, nothing had happened, you went off your own, so we can say like, look at that, go watch this. And Michobasan, you also in your earlier comment, you also made a very important point. You said ki Yamsat, yes, we are talking of jihad in Kashmir, and which is spilling over to the rest of the states in India. We are somewhere, and it won't be wrong to say that we are somewhere slowly going to to India files from Kashmir files. So it's going to be
It will happen. It will happen if we don't control it, Anmara. Yes, yes, yes. Bemara Manba Akkat. This is very important. Yeah, I say ancestral Urtanshat Varian. The only thing we should be kind of really, this will be a shame to our ancestors if we do not continue this fight. They did not leave and they did not change for 800 years where there was an easy way out for them.
Right. Exactly.
So if we don't fight it, we are not doing justice to our ancestors.
So, Sanjeev ji, I am actually running out of time also, and at the end of the show, I always conclude it with a question and answer session. So today I have two questions with me. So my backend team, Bhupinder ji and Nitin, they have just texted me one question, and that is coming from Ravi Razdan ji from Jammu. So Ravi ji wants to know from you. He says, Mr. Sanjeev, what is one important message that you want to give to the youth and youngsters of the community, in your opinion?
One important message will be, keep this fight going on. That is having a motherland, and declaring, making sure this gets acknowledged as a genocide. Rest will follow. I know I can give a lot other things like our language, our belief, our rituals, our clothing, everything else is. I'm telling you right now, this is my take on this. That is secondary. Being this declared as a genocide and getting our land back, motherland back, or birthplace back, are the two most important things we should tell our youth. Do not give up that fight.
Do not give that. Very important
Don't
words.
don't get into comfort zone that we are in India now, everything is good.
Exactly. Second question comes from Amit Bhatt, Imch Pune Rosa, Imch Prasan. They want to know from you. Tell me, is it true or false that the Kashmiri Pandits who have now settled overseas, you know, they do not yearn and long for Kashmir like we do here in India? Is it true?
Bumarakare, itka answer. When I was in Nagpur, I was never expecting to be any other place than Kashmir. Let me be.
During your engineering days, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had very hard time to digest that I'm not going back because I loved that place. And now the question is, yes, 30 years, lot of things have changed. There are reasons, family reasons, personal reasons, and other reasons. But that should not be the factor that we should not get our land back. That should not be the factor that I cannot go and have a house there, a home there.
Right,
Not at all. My uncle who lived all his life after his, I think, 12th or whatever graduation from Kashmir,
right.
he lived in Hyderabad. But
Okay.
that doesn't mean he did not have a home which he called home. He used to always say, "Bachus sopun wuchan ke bachus havkarli bihit painis
Right,
makan." So that doesn't mean, even if we wherever we are, it doesn't really matter where anyone is. What matters is, do you have a way to look back and say, I have my own homeland,
homeland, right.
which I can call a homeland. Now, some will come again, as I said, some will not. I don't know. It's not that we are settled here and everything is good as well. We also have our own struggles.
Challenges, right, right.
But at the same time, that should not deter us from not asking what is ours.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sanjeev ji, it was a pleasure and it was an absolute delight to have you on the show. And I would definitely look forward to have you in upcoming panel discussions and different debates. And definitely, from this show, I'm taking this message that we need to, as a diaspora, we need to reach out and we need to get more, active on the front. And this fight has to be taken on to its logical conclusion. Thank you once again, sir, for coming here. And
Oscar, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for everybody who basically listened and watched this,
definitely, definitely, sir.
and
Maybe
thank you to your team also.
I'll see you on the next episode of the Homeland podcast. तो ताइन दी इजाजत जय पनन कश्मीर